G'day gardeners, welcome along to the vlog. It's the first week of October now, so it's the second month of spring for us. We finally had some rain last week from some storms, so our water tank is now full again. The garden's looking great because of the rain. Our lawn's looking good and starting to bounce back again. Hopefully we'll have lots of lawn clippings to put in our compost soon. We've already started harvesting. We've harvested lettuce and peas so far, and most of the plants in the garden now are really growing fast as the heat is here now to stay. We've got average days of about 23 to 28 degrees Celsius, and hopefully some more rain in the next few weeks to follow up on what we've already had. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Starting with the onion bed, I'm in the process of removing those garlic. The garlic didn't really work out this year. You can see previous vlogs for information on that. I've got some tomato seedlings here just sitting in the sun. They're starting to get a little bit long for my liking. They really are. They're a little bit long and a little bit too thin. So I'm a bit worried about those seedlings. I do have backup seedlings, so if they don't grow too well, then I do have backups that are at a much younger stage than that I can work with. But as it is, I'm trying to just slow the growth down, thicken them up, and get them into the ground as quickly as possible. I was planning on putting them in this bed with the garlic, so I need to get this garlic out so I can get those tomatoes in. Our potato onions, no real change there. They're just thickening up and fattening up and maturing, and they'll be out of the ground soon. In a few weeks time, you can see the tips are starting to dry off, which is a good sign that they're getting ready to be harvested soon. Behind there in our pots, no real change from last week to speak of. All those seedlings are doing pretty well. We haven't got any flowers out yet. Okay, so moving along, this week we've been harvesting, and we've been harvesting peas. I've already pulled out 200 grams of shelled peas from the green feast, from this bucket, and also from that trellis there. And you can see there's probably, I would estimate, harvest-wise, probably 400 grams or more still on the vines as it is. So the 200 grams I harvested the other day, I blanched them and froze them. So I haven't started eating them yet, just got them ready, blanched them, froze them, so we can start eating them soon. The big change from last week is our golden potted peas have actually started to produce some nice pods. And you can see the flowers there. They're nice, beautiful purple blue flowers. They start purple and they turn blue as they mature, and then they produce these golden pods. It's not a hugely prolific producer of peas, this particular variety, so it's a very nice ornamental variety. For ornamental purposes, it's quite beautiful, but it's not producing the same volume of pods as, for example, this variety here. And you can just see the difference. This is covered in pods, and that's quite sporadic, even though it is a very nice ornamental plant. Okay, moving along. If I can get my shadow out of the way. Leeks are just slowly thickening up. No progress there. This potato is coming along really nice, really healthy growth, nice thick stem, very stout plant. The stem is very stiff and not soft like some of the heirlooms I grow. Onions are doing really well. They're thickening up nicely now, you can see. And they're quite big. You can see in comparison to my fingers, they're probably nearly an inch thick now. So onions are thickening up nicely and maturing well. These cabbages, they're coming along. I'm getting attacked by cabbage moth, and I still haven't got or made any cover for them yet. I'm just going to move around to the back and show you our beetroots. So our beetroots are going really well now. I've planted them in clusters, and we'll see if that is too thick or not as they mature. Not 100% sure yet. You grow beetroot in clusters, and I do that every year. But I did make the clusters a little bit thicker this year, so it'll be interesting to see if we can still get lots of big bulbs, lots of big beetroots from those. These ones are also doing really well. And I'm not actually sure if these are beetroots now. These might be something else. They do kind of look like beetroots, but I don't know. We'll see. I hope it's not some kind of spinach or something like that, but we'll see. Sage is flowering and looking really healthy. That's the best, healthiest sage I've ever grown. And you can see actually in here, I've got a chili plant right in the middle of this garden. And that's been there now for 2 years. It fruited last year and we got chilies off it. And I just left it in the ground over winter, and you can see it's starting to shoot now. I just want to see if I can grow them perennially, year in, year out. And I mean, that position there is not too bad. It doesn't really interfere with the other plants. Other things can grow at this time of year, and eventually these will come out when that's finally turning into a nice big bush. Okay, moving on to potato bed, you can see potatoes are really starting to thicken up now. They're growing really well. They're already starting to produce little flowers, these ones. These ones are Dutch creams, and they're covered in those little white bugs. I've got to look up what those bugs are to see if they're a problem or not. But growth's coming along really well now. These are much softer stem potato though, so they tend to fall over quite easily, especially when they get wet. These ones are doing very well. Oh, we've got birds digging in the garden. They come along and they dig for worms. That one's coming up well. I've actually planted another potato here that I was chitting, and that's a different variety, and that's been planted right in there. So these are all Dutch creams. That one there's a different variety. That's I think it's Royal Blue. Now moving along to the lettuce and the carrots, they're doing very well. As you can see, we've got some beautiful little gem lettuce heads there, lots of them. And we've already eaten one. We took this one here the other day and ate it, and it was delicious. Really nice lettuce. It's a really nice semi-cos, and I've never been able to grow proper cos lettuce before. For some reason, I just can't seem to grow cos lettuce. They tend to get really thin and long and then bolt. So this year we're growing the little gems to see if I can grow them more successfully, and so far, beautiful. They're supposed to be more heat tolerant, and they're supposed to be, you're supposed to be able to grow them in a more drier, hotter environment without them bolting as easily. So I'm not sure if these ones are bolting yet. I've never grown them before, so I don't know what bolting looks like. I'm assuming the middle is going to stretch out. But these ones, all good to eat. See, these ones, some of these have more compact centres in them, and some of them, they're a little bit more stretched. But they're delicious. We've already eaten one, that is, not all of them, but we've already eaten one. Absolutely delicious. The carrots at the back here, they're doing very well. Now this side, I thinned out less than the other side, which was an experiment just to see how the difference between the amount of thinning in my carrots. You can see these ones are a little bit more breathing space. And we should be pulling some baby carrots out of here really soon, which will be nice. Now, moving along to the corn, and we've had some issues with the corn in this bed so far. Some of the plants have disappeared, which is usually slugs, but I have not found a slug anywhere. And I found this the other day, one of the plants literally broken off, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I suspect the birds might be eating them. They might be coming along and just pulling them out of the ground. So I have re-sown more seeds in these gaps. Hopefully they'll start to pop up soon. I think that's a little corn seed right there, little seedling. Yeah, hopefully the seeds I sowed in the gaps will start popping up soon and catch up to the other ones. But so far, the corn has not been as vigorous as the F1 hybrids we've grown in the past. So these are heirloom varieties, and like the original corn varieties, they're not super sweets. So maybe there's just a difference in growth vigor due to them being heirloom varieties and not F1 hybrids. Now behind the corn here, we've got our sunflowers growing in this bed here, and you can see they're going really well now. Some of these plants now are over a foot high, and from now on they're going to start growing really quickly. They'll thicken up quickly and they'll get tall really quickly in the next few weeks. And we should have sunflowers on these by November, I think. Some of them maybe not. Some of these smaller ones possibly won't, although they might just produce smaller flowers. And that particular one there, this one interests me. I'm not sure why. It doesn't look like it's got any kind of distinct deficiencies apart from these dead leaf tips, which might be the sign that I should be looking for. It's just never grown any bigger than that, but it hasn't shriveled up either. Whereas the other ones you can see have clearly like shot right up. Like this one here is over a foot tall. That one there is barely 10 centimeters. So that one's about 40 and that one's about 10. All planted at the same time, all pretty much the same size seedlings from the seedling tray. So it's interesting to see what's happened there. And I suspect, and you can see this one here as well, it's got problems with the leaf tips. I suspect that's a sign of root damage when they were transplanted. So these ones probably had a little bit of root damage when they were transplanted, and that's probably why these tips have died off a bit. It's not as healthy as it could have been otherwise. And you can see with these other ones, there's no sign of that kind of damage on any of these other sunflowers. So that's what I suspect so far, and that's probably what happened. I mean, when you're transplanting a lot of these plants, you will get ones every now and then that you just damage slightly, and it only takes a little bit of damage when you're transplanting to set a plant back for its entire life. Okay, moving into the greenhouse. Alright, it's getting quite hot in here now that it's October. I mean, it's the mid-20s outside, so in here it's gotten up into the mid-30s with 90% humidity, which is quite extreme. But everything's going well in here so far. No real change from last week. That tomato's getting a little bit long for my liking, and a little bit thin. I want to get these tomatoes in the ground, like I said about those ones outside. These ones in the seedling trays, these are my daughter's tomatoes that she was growing up for her school project. And we thinned them out. They're all growing in 3 trays on this side. And about 2 weeks ago, we pulled them all apart gently and then retransplanted them into different cells. And you can see some of them have taken off really well, and some of them haven't. They probably just didn't like being pulled apart the way we did. We basically just separated them out of the soil gently and gently teased them apart. But yeah, you can damage roots, and sometimes it affects them, but other ones do fine. Our chilies and capsicums doing well. These 2 cucumbers, I'm going to put them into pots today probably. So I'll put those into new pots today. Our other 2 cucumbers are doing really well over here. They're going to go in the ground in the next week or so. Our backup tomatoes, and these backup tomatoes here. These ones are getting a bit long. These need to come out and go into bigger pots, and so do these. These all need to come out and go into bigger pots. And these chilies and capsicums here are doing very well now. They're just going to slowly mature up into nice plants that we can put in the ground. I still haven't done anything about the dill yet, but I'm going to do something this week with that. I know I said that last week, but hopefully this week I actually do. Strawberries are doing really well now. The ones that I salvaged from the pot, they're doing very well. And that's about it for the greenhouse this week. Okay, moving on now to our other sunflower bed where we're growing our herbs, flowers, as well as some sunflowers. And you can see the progress from last week is quite amazing, really. These sunflowers have probably put on 30 centimetres of growth this week at least, and they'll continue to do that until they start to flower. I'm not sure how tall these ones are going to get. I thought they would have been flowering by now at this height. I assume that these would be about this height, these sunflowers, but we're only just starting to get some signs of head development. Not in that one, more so in that one I think, and definitely look, see, head development there and in there. So it'll be interesting to see how much taller these get, because these are already probably 4.5 foot to 5 foot high as it is. And you can see inside we've actually got quite a lot in here. We've got a lot of little tiny ones, which probably struggling because there's not enough sun in there for them. And they shot up a bit later than the taller ones, obviously. Oh, this one there's fallen over. They'll be fine. But yeah, doing well. The other herbs, the mint's taking over again. We've got to do something about that. The cosmos, hopefully they start flowering soon because they're looking really good. The comfrey, this horrible stuff, I haven't pulled out because I don't want to uproot anything else. But I might actually get in there and start clipping all the leaves off again and just clip it back to the ground. But I don't want to uproot it yet until all these flowers are done, and then I'm going to try and dig all those roots out. The marjoram needs a haircut, and this garden's doing well as well. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take you over and show you the progress of my hop plants that I've been growing for homebrew beer. So I had the hop plants over there in the sun for a couple of weeks just to get the early spring sun, just to get the growth going. And I've since moved them into their permanent position, which is over here. Now you can see I've actually got a little bit of damage to some of these leaves, but it's nothing that I've found that is getting worse. and it might just be something to do with the particular variety. That variety is doing well. It's not as vigorous a grower as this one, and this particular variety is doing very well. And I've already pulled this vine up, and I've started the process of wrapping it up this string. So this one will grow up this string, and I'm going to train this one up to this string, and grow them up these strings here. And the plan is to basically grow the hop vines around the top of our trampoline. So I'm going to grow them around a big loop around the top of the trampoline. And I've measured it out. That should give us about 8 to 10 meters of hop vines. And they typically only grow to, I think it's 8 to 10 meters in hop farms. So that should be enough. I'm going to wire that up in the next week or two. As these hop vines get up, I'm going to wire all the way around there. I've already bought the wire, and allow them to just to grow around there and create a really nice kind of a border on the edge of this trampoline. I mean, the kids don't use the trampoline much, and it's so big, it takes up so much space, it's such a pain in the neck. And, you know, I mean, you buy it for your kids, they do use it to a degree to start with, and then it wanes off over time. So I've been trying to find other uses for the trampoline, because I can't get rid of it just yet. It'll be a couple of years before I can convince my wife that the kids are done, we need to get rid of it. So for the time being, it's going to be wrangled into actually growing plants on. And she'll still be able to jump in there if she wants to, but I'm going to have my hops growing around the outside, which I think is a good idea and a good use of this gigantic trampoline, which just wastes space for us. So there you have it, guys. That's our garden now, the first week of October. Things are coming along really well now and really fast. It's that time of year where you really need to keep onto your garden every day or two. If you miss a couple of days out in your garden, you're going to miss things because things are growing so fast now. We've already started to harvest. The rain has started to fall again, which is really nice because we needed that rain. And the issue going forward for me now will be juggling plantings, pulling things out, making space and putting things in. Because we do have a limited amount of space in this garden, and I have things like tomatoes that need to go in the grounds very soon, and I still haven't got room for them yet. So I need to get things out so I can put things in. And that's the trick with juggling a smaller garden, is not always having that space ready for the seedlings when the seedlings are ready. And that's just something that takes time. It takes years to get used to growing things at the right time so you know when they switch out. And that's something I haven't mastered yet, but hopefully something that I can start to master even better in the next year or two. So thank you for watching today. I hope you got something out of this video. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, I'll see you in next week's vlog.